If you have blocks along, I invite you to place them near one short edge of your mat, but maybe the outer corners. Another option might be to stand in front of a bed or a bench or a chair and just place your handprints there. We're just going to practice a fold that turns into a variation of downward facing dog. Again, make this suit your needs today. Noticing your feet, you may rock forward and back as you notice your breath. A breath out might reach fingertips toward the floor. A breath in might reach them skyward. Choose to connect the handprints and hinge at your hips. Pause halfway, connecting palms with the lap. You can stay here, especially if minding any blood pressure concerns. You have the option to softly bend your knees and reach for your surface of support with both handprints. This is enough. This is a supported fold. You may begin to notice the slow lengthening of one or both legs. You might explore bending one knee deeply as you press firmly into the opposite foot as though to lengthen skyward with that hip. Your legs may not be straight. That's okay. These might be really tiny movements as you pedal from one side to the other. Can you notice any tension in your jaw, any clenching of your teeth? It's okay if you do find that. No need to beat yourself up. Just notice and choose to make space between upper and lower teeth. You could nod your head yes, let your head hang. Nice work. You might choose to press into both feet equally, lengthening the backs of your knees away behind you as you reach skyward with your hips. Again, it's okay to keep your knees bent any amount. And choose to step back in really tiny increments and explore your variation of a downward facing dog today. This might be it. Great. Maybe you try another step. Maybe you explore rocking forward and back, shifting weight from your hands and shoulders, your feet and hips. Almost like doing a handstand or push-up. Or reaching the backs of your legs long, like you're about to stand up. And you can choose to bend farther if you'd like to move your footprints again. And if your hands are up on blocks like mine, you might notice that as you reach farther back, there's a little less play with the amount of weight you can press into the blocks. They start to toggle on their corners. So notice that your feet, your legs can take most of your weight here, almost like you're about to lift your hands off the blocks. And you may choose to lower the height of the blocks, 1 or 2 spaces. Most yoga blocks are most steady on their lowest setting, so do with that what you will. And again, get off the bus at any time. Make this yours as you continue to reach up and back with your tail in any form of fold. And maybe as your feet and hands get farther apart, your heels start to lift away from the mat. You might intentionally lift them skyward, maybe with a breath in. And then reach them down towards the mat behind you as you lengthen both knees and point your back hip points upward, if that makes sense. Think about a dog lifting its tail towards the sky. Downward facing dog, right? And you might begin to notice the strength and length of the undersides of your armpits and choose to walk your feet towards your wrists and at any time. Really nice work. We're going to, from here, make our way down to the floor for some more work. If you have or a pillow or a stack of books to sit upon, I invite you to make a little seat for yourself. Might include something soft to kneel on. or find a comfortable seat that works for you. You can sit in a chair, you can come to kneeling or crisscross applesauce. Again, make this yours. I'll meet you there. So as you find your comfortable seat, I invite you to take one breath or more and just notice the sensation of transition from upright to grounded on the floor. Notice the effort before. Notice your breath. Maybe thinking again about that global breathing, that expansion of the rib cage out in all directions. Remember, you can use your hands for feedback on your rib cage at any time. Choose to stay here and breathe in hero's pose or comfortable seat. Or practice seated side bends as one hand reaches toward the floor beside you and the other hand might reach up overhead. Let this be an upward reach more than a sideways reach. So reaching up towards 12 o'clock, notice the length from your hip through your waist, ribs, armpit, elbow, fingertip. And choose to change sides as you're ready to bring your skyward hand to the floor and reach up on the other side. That's the flow. We'll change sides with the breath, inhaling to reach up high on one side and ground on the other. And again. Using the exhale for transition and the inhale to reach and expand. Nice work. You might continue to move exactly this way as you are, or practice a variation of Wild Thing with me. For this version of Wild Thing, I like to bring one set of fingertips or even my whole hand to the mat, close to one set of toes on the same side. And this is where the seat on a set of blocks or a pillow can be especially helpful, or a stack of books, as I mentioned before, anything to lift your hips off the mat. But again, you can do this with extra strength from a simple kneeling seat. So from here, we're going to lift the hips skyward as we draw the other hand up and back. And have a strong belly here. Can you bring your belly button towards your spine as you press your hand into the mat behind you? And maybe this other one feels up and back. You could even support your head. Nice work. Squeezing the glutes to open the fronts of the hips. And with control, with care and caution, lower the hips to your point of connection. Release that hand from the floor. Make any adjustments as you return to upright. We'll do the same thing on the other side, bringing the handprint beside the toes. Maybe the fingertips point behind you. Maybe they point forward. That's up to you and your shoulder. With a breath in, the hips might lift forward and up as the hand draws up and back overhead, maybe bending at the elbow to cradle the skull. Take one or more breaths here and choose to lower with support, bringing your hips to their point of connection. Noticing how that felt. From here, choose to join me in tall kneeling. If you're working with blocks, as you see me doing, you may choose to transition them from your seat to your hands to use them like stilts under both shoulders. And from here, we'll find a variation of tabletop or quadruped with our hands kind of lifted on the support, or you can just move from tall kneeling. These are all options and choices for you to make in your practice. However you may choose to get there, maybe bringing a foot out to the side first and then heel toeing it forward. I'll invite you to find a low lunge. So place your in front of you on a railroad track in comparison to where your knee is grounded beneath your other hip. And this will allow a little forward and back movement of the hips as opposed to when we're kind of crisscrossed with a little crowding in the midline between both grounded points. So as you find your hands on your blocks or choose to stay upright with hands maybe on hips or at your sides, think about drawing your belly button in towards your spine, maybe as though there are bungee cords connected to your front hip points and your lowest ribs, kind of accordion squishing the front of your body with strength together as you curl your tailbone toward your front heel. All right. So from here, this might be a really tiny movement. You might not move anywhere from here. You might choose to stay and notice the sensation here as you breathe. Or if you brought blocks along, you could bring your fingertips or handprints there for support and allow your hips to become heavy toward that front heel. Again, thinking about curling the tailbone under, lengthening the lumbar spine, even if it limits how far you lunge. Option to stay here or tuck the toes of the back foot, maybe play with lifting the back knee behind you. All just options. From here, we'll press into the front foot to lengthen the front knee. And shift the hips backward, maybe bringing blocks or hands back to counterbalance. From here, we'll peel the heel up. We'll peel the toes up on the heel. And flex the shin or the heart. Maybe pedal a couple of times. And maybe choose to lunge once more. Again, I encourage you to think about your tailbone curling under more than sending your hips forward. You might choose to lift the hand. And once again, we'll counter this pose by lengthening the front knee, bringing hips toward the back, heel behind, maybe flexing the toes towards the heart, pedaling the foot, maybe dialing the toes outward, almost like turning a volume knob up and down, noticing the IT band, any feedback it has. And however you choose to get there, return to both knees, maybe pausing in tall kneeling. And as you're ready, however it makes sense in your space, bring your other foot forward, bending that knee, preparing for a low lunge on this side. And once again, from your tall kneeling position, you might bring hands to your hips and think tucking your tailbone under. Notice the sensation of the opening of the front of the hip as you do this. You might kind of use some abdominal strength to continue that connection as you maybe choose to shift your hips forward towards your heel in front of you. Any amount. This might be a microscopic little amount or a millimeter, or maybe several inches, depending on your practice, your body, your mobility, what's going on with you today. Can you notice your breath, making space between upper and lower teeth? Maybe finding space in your lower jaw to slide left and right. Option to tuck the toes of your back foot and reach back with that heel, lengthening the knee towards the sky behind you. And bringing that knee to kneel again, untucking the toes. Option to shift your hips back, leaving the toes glued down in front. And maybe pedaling the toes towards your heart as you flex them and point them and flex them and point them and step again. Lunge if you choose. Notice your breath. And one more time, we'll lengthen the front knee, reaching back with the tail. And flexing the toes toward the heart, maybe dialing as though turning volume up and down on a knob on an old radio, or waving with the foot from left to right. Nice work. However you choose to get there, return to tall kneeling and offer yourself support as you come down to maybe first a seat as you make your way down to lie on your side.